Hi, I'm Theron Q Ramacharaka. Okay, so listen here. This video is about being a complicated person in a simpleized world. Among simple people. A little bit more specific now. I'll just use myself as an example here because this video arises from my own experience. So here we go. I see things from many different points of view, but I can't see them, most of these things from different points of view all at the same time. So, excuse me. Let me just clear this up. All right. I can't come up with a specific example right now. I don't know. Okay. All right. Let's say my relationship with my wife. Some days, I'm looking at the things a certain way. Okay? At one level of understanding our relationship. And I want a certain thing to just end. Maybe the whole deal. I don't know. Because of the way I'm looking at it. Because of the level. Let's say I'm looking at it at a very spiritual level. And I'm thinking, she's killing my spirit, man. or spiritually speaking, this doesn't work. And that's the most important thing to me. I got to end affairs. But, a week later, I might not be looking at things from that point of view. I might be thinking about more practical affairs. More, like what we might call down-to-earth affairs. The fact that we get along very well in a lot of ways that are very difficult, in ways that are difficult to find another person that you get along this well with, that, a good match over certain things, things that are vital, to a good relationship. So I'm looking at things from that angle now, right? And I think, this is great. This is working really well. All right, so, I have two different ways of looking at the whole relationship with my wife. And, but it's hard to hold both of these in my mind at the same time. And if I'm trying to make a decision about where we're going with this relationship, some days I might come up with a different answer than other days. And part of this is because I'm looking into affairs deeply. I'm strongly and seriously and deeply considering causes, effects, long-term consequences of affairs with the relationship. I'm not just looking at some quick little snapshot view. So therefore, I'm going into one of these points of view rather deeply. I'm considering it. And in that point of view, there's a certain conclusion that gets reached from that angle. Okay? On a different day, if I start considering things really deeply from a different angle, with different goals in mind that day, right? There's a different conclusion to be reached. If I was just taking a snapshot, quick little glance at affairs, just being a superficial person, what happened to my life? Okay, excuse me. Then, yeah, maybe I could hold it all in my mind at the same time and just keep on this steady path with the whole deal, not think too far into affairs much. But maybe, if you're like me, you do think into things a lot. Because maybe in your life experience, you have learned to do that. Maybe your education has taught you to do that. Maybe your life experience has taught you that if you don't look deeply into some affairs, big decisions that you make in your life, there are consequences that you will not like. So you need to take a careful examination of things. Maybe you've been brought up in such a way or had certain things happen to you that if you just stay static all your life and don't reevaluate your affairs regularly, then you're stuck in a rut and you regret it later. So you do reevaluate things. It's become a habit for you. And on certain days, you're thinking in different terms than on others. Well, here's my point. This makes it so that you may switch around how you're thinking at some moment as opposed to another moment. It may differ. Whereas with other people, it may not vary that much. Their point of view, their decisions about life, they have made their decisions about affairs by the time they're 20 or 22 years old, and they don't change much all their life. It doesn't matter what happens. And they don't have many different points of view. They don't examine things from different angles. They just stay static with everything. They have the same point of view. They examine things from the same angle all the time. And they don't look far into affairs. They just keep their nose to the grindstone and stay pretty much the same. They just get deeper into what they're doing, and that's that. Good old John over there, old reliable John. He's this way. 10 years later, hey, yeah, I know that John. I knew him 10 years ago. He's this way. And you go visit John. He's this way. Still the same way. That's John. Good old reliable John. In fact, he's better at being this way now. He sticks to it. Well, not everybody's like that. Okay? Some people, they're a little more complicated. They see things from different levels. In fact, creative thinking involves seeing affairs from different levels of examination. A stand back, far away level of looking at things. And then up close, where you see different things. You look at a desktop, your actual desktop, maybe it's finished wood. All right? You look at it from back here, you don't see any bugs on it. You get out a really strong magnifying glass, really strong, all right? Or you take a little scraping off the finish and you put it under a microscope, you give it a different level of examination, and you see all kinds of life on there, man, little bugs running around and stuff. Microscopic ones, that's a different level of examination. Well, in one case, you may say, oh, that's a nice finish. Oh, my God, that's a nice finish. And in the other case, you may go, oh, my God, there are critters all over this thing. Well, for somebody that only ever just looks at it one way, they may think you're nuts. You're off your rocker today. So here's my advice. If you are a complicated person, you see things from different angles, you have different answers, depending on how you're looking at affairs. You make different decisions, depending on how you're examining affairs. How you're experiencing things one day, as opposed to the other. Now, see, I have this going on as a result of at least two things. Myself. I have what they call borderline personality disorder. It's not real severe. I've got a lot of control over that by now in my life. But it involves shifting values. It involves shifting sense of identity. It involves shifting. A lot of shifting. Okay? But also, my education comes into this. I have an Ivy League level education in philosophy when it comes to life affairs, deep ones, as well as surface ones. I have different ways of looking at things. I have multiple ways of examining any life question. And depending on the point of view or the approach or the method of examination over such affairs, I may come up with different answers. Different decisions can be made. So if I'm experiencing life next week differently than I am this week, because different circumstances are going on, or my emotional states are a little bit different, this can affect the point of view that I have. So my decisions about affairs temporarily may differ than they did last week. All right? See, this is a result of my personality in the first place. My way of looking into things deeply. Borderline personality disorder. There are a lot of factors. Okay? Now, you don't have to have all of those factors. You may have a different set of factors. But you may be a person who is complicated, let's say. you have different answers to the same question. And you either give a whole set of answers at one time, or your answer today may be different than your answer tomorrow. What my point here then is, be careful. Not everybody's like that. And that is perceived as that thing, that not everybody's like, is perceived by many people as being shifty and unreliable, unstable. And if you get treated like that long enough, you may become that. You may come loose a bit, right? If people expect that you're not stable because you just have a deeper point of view, you have a deeper way of going about life than they do. Maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe they're just freaking simple-minded. Many people are. But it's the normal thing. Maybe you're a little outside of the box. A highly recommended thing by some people. But be careful. It's not that much appreciated. It's known to be a good thing. Hey, so is having a good imagination. But don't express it much at the job. Don't. No. 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 In the job place, do things the way you're told to do them and stick with it. Don't get imaginative. Even though on the job posting, when you applied, it said, we're looking for people with creative imaginations. We want people who are creative. We want creative thinkers here. Yeah, well, be careful. And same with this, like having different points of view, having different answers for the same question. Like, well, how would you like me to approach that? A person asks you a question. What do you think about such and such? Well, how would you like me to approach this? We can go at it from this point of view, in which case I'd say, no, that's not a good idea you've got. And the other point, in the other case here, I could say, that's a wonderful idea. How would you like your outcome? Because, I can see it a lot of different ways. And then, and you live your life like that. If they don't. And you're looking for some sort of cooperation from this person. You need a favor. You need some cooperation. You need to do a joint effort. And they see you as shifty, unreliable, a little bit off. Never know what's going to come up with you. Just be careful. How to do that? What I mean by be careful is if you have the knack for coming at things from different angles and coming up with different conclusions about same things, just because that's the way you think. All right? Don't vocalize your thought processes through all of those changes to other people very much. Keep that stuff to yourself. Figure out how you're going to answer certain questions about life that is somewhat just pretty much fit with everybody else's, and give those when people ask for it. What do you think about this? Maybe just to save your ass, save face for the sake of greasing the wheels of social interaction. You need to consider what most other people would say and just go with that. As long as you can find it true within yourself, along with all the other things about the same question or the same issue that you can find within yourself, just keep the rest out of there. And go with the one that just seems middle of the road. Like on a psychological exam. You're given a standardized psych test. Okay? Maybe in school. Maybe to get a job. You have choices 1 through 5. 1 being never, 5 being always, and 3 being middle of the road. And the question is, I get angry when blah, blah, blah. Or I feel angry when blah, blah, blah happens. And You can answer all three, all five choices. You know, you depending on how you're listening, how you're thinking about this. Excuse me. I gotta fix this thing, man. It goes dim if I don't touch something. Touch me or I'll go dark. You can answer yes, always. From one point of view, you know. Yes, something like that always pisses me off. Or, no, that would never piss me off. If I'm in a different state of mind or whatever, you know. Because you've got all these different angles going on in you. Validly. They're all valid. And you can relate to them all. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? So let's say you just pick number 1 or number 5. Well, that's an extreme. Others are going to take that to be an extreme. Something abnormal. Something wrong. Pick the middle of the road. Pick 2, 3, or 4, but not 1 or 5. Now, I'm not telling you, how to take a psych test. That was a hypothetical situation to use as an example or as a method of explaining what I am getting at. What I am getting at is act normal. Not meaning that there's something abnormal about you. Just meaning stay middle of the road in your interactions with people. Keep pretty much the same point of view going all the time around people. Even if you have a complexity of thoughts going on in your head about something and you're in a conversation with somebody about this topic, tone it down or people will think you're nuts. Because that's the way simple minds work. Most people are quite simple-minded, really. Even if they're very intellectual and they're very good at what they do, they're very intelligent, still, most people have very narrow points of view about affairs. If you don't, act like you do. That's pretty good advice. Might not sound right. Might sound like something that's just bullshit. But, my channel, Theron Q Ramacharaka, aims at giving practical instruction in affairs. It might aid your personal evolvement, in fact, to just tone things down when you're interacting with other people. People don't need to know all the inner workings going on in your mind. Some of it's just none of their business. If you do need to give an outside of the box answer about something because it's relevant and it may be useful, then say something like, well, if I were speaking as a physicist, or if I were speaking as a philosopher, or if I were speaking as the philosopher Aristotle at the moment, or if I were looking at things from this point of view, if I were, and this may be helpful for you, then I would say such and so. But don't propose these outside of the box and shifting, perspectives and conclusions and suggestions and ideas as your own, in an ongoing way, in public. Don't. It can work against you. You may not be seen as a dynamic individual, as a broad thinker and a deep thinker. You may be seen as a nutcase instead. I'm Theron Q Ramacharaka. Be well and beware.